Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Some of the most meaningful jewelry you own isn't new. It's inherited. A ring from a grandmother, a necklace full of memories, but no longer your style. Duke's Jewelers reimagines family heirlooms into custom pieces you'll actually wear and love. Working one-on-one, Duke's designers honor the original story while creating something fresh and modern. Don't let meaningful jewelry sit unused. Let it live on beautifully. Visit Duke's Jewelers in Springville or online at dukesjewelers.com, where old stories become new treasures.
Believe it or not, this guy actually has friends.
Nice.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, let's get it, folks. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. 12:05. Hope you all had a tremendous weekend. Hopefully you were able to sit back and just lounge on the couch and watch some basketball and watch a Duke meltdown, because, come on, who doesn't enjoy that? Who doesn't enjoy seeing a team fall apart and it's named Duke?
Everybody loves that, except for it might make people a little bit grumpy, only for a second if they pick Duke. But then you got to go back to be like, you know what? That's what makes it great. That's what's enjoyable. Even if it wrecks your bracket, it doesn't matter.
That's what. All right, so there's a listener to the show who shall go nameless, but let's just say Lloyd. He could make both of us disappear in the middle of the night, and with a blink of or with a snap of a finger, and we'd be toast. That's the kind of power this guy holds. And last night he texted me and he said, this just wrecked my perfect Final Four. I would have had a perfect Final Four if not for this. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but were you not entertained? And I think, yeah, the entertainment value for him, and I think for everybody else, definitely overrules a bracket.
I would have had 3 of the 4 had Duke made it. I would have had 3 of the 4.
What a game.
It was a heck of a game.
Just, look, that's why I love the NCAA tournament, because it's not the NBA, in meaning that you still have some kids. Now, granted, they're well-paid kids now, but they're still kids. All right, the frontal lobe's still being developed, so they're going to do some stupid stuff. So you will have a bunch of WTF moments mixed in with some OMG moments, and you just sit back and just be like, I love this. How great is this? Because you have enough of the bonehead stuff and the craziness that goes along with a great play. Like, yeah, Boozer, what are you doing, man? You can't be making that pass. But then you go over there and you look at John Scheyer and the coach, and he's like pointing forward. Like,
had 2 guys that were on that side of the court.
Like moving forward. Like, wait, what? No, you tell him to hold on to that ball and take the foul. I don't care if he's a crappy foul shooter or not. You hold that ball, you take the foul, and then you go up and look, if you make 1 free throw, then you can foul up 3 and you win the game. If you make 2, then it's definitely over. But
you could have nearly just thrown it up straight up in the air, and you might have been safe.
Yes.
And let the time nearly run out.
Oh, man. It was that was something. That was something. And I was and this is what I love. And I know, Lloyd, you've got kids that are young, too. When you're watching a game with an impressionable youth, you know that they're going to remember that game forever. Like, I remember being like, I don't know, I was 10, 11, 12 maybe, when Christian Laettner hit the shot over Kentucky. And by the way, Rick Pitino references that game all the time. That game was almost 40 years ago, and Rick Pitino talks about it like it was yesterday. You don't think these coaches get scarred by those kind of moments? John Scheyer will remember this game for as long as he lives. Rick Pitino remembers that Christian Laettner game, the turnaround jumper from the free throw line. He references it all the time. Why? Because it scarred him. And if you're a kid out there that's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, I know that's kind of the age of Xavier. My kid's 14. Like, that's what makes you a sports fan, watching moments like that, especially when you don't have skin in the game and you're just watching it as a fan. It's awesome. Now, if you're a Duke fan, boo freaking who? Nobody cares. No, but if you're a Duke fan, like, okay, yeah, that hurts you bad. And if you're a UConn fan, it's one of the singular greatest moments of your life. But for all of us out there that just enjoy great sports, man.
Now, let's just say it, by the way, Dan Hurley is a psychopath.
Oh, he is a psychopath.
That guy is a nut job.
Look, I think that we know enough about Dan Hurley to know that you're never going to root for the guy. If you don't know anything about him, if you're not close to him, you'll never root for Dan Hurley. Never. You can't bring yourself to root for a guy like that. But if he was willing to coach your team, would you take him?
Oh, of
In
course.
a freaking second,
Yeah,
you would.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, you would.
Who, after you just win a game, who goes and puts their forehead into a referee? Who does that?
Nobody.
You just won.
You won.
Why would you even do anything like that?
It almost feels like he like has to now. Like
That's who I am.
in his mind, he's like, well, I built up this reputation of who I am, so now I've got to act like this. The guy's a buffoon. There's no getting around it.
I so badly wanted that, just not for my bracket's sake, but just to put him in his place a little bit. Just I wanted them to be like a technical foul right there when they had to shoot.
Yep, I'm with you.
Or something.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's what, from what I understand, that's what Duke, I haven't heard the play-by-play, but apparently that's what the Duke broadcasters were asking for. Of course. Why wouldn't you? But, like you just won a game. You should be jumping up and down, getting Gatorade thrown on you or whatever their drink of choice is, and celebrating, yet you go find the referee and put your head right into his
just
head.
mean mug him,
And
too.
just mean mug
You don't
him.
even say anything.
No. And it's like, why? You just won, dude.
Oh, how great would that be had they teed him up? Ooh, the place would have melted
would
down.
have been chaos.
Would have melted
and the
down.
type of chaos that I'm here for.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But I love the chaos that happened in that game. That was amazing.
Yes.
That was what March Madness is all about. We're trying to remember the other game that was kind of similar to that was the Kentucky-Santa Clara game earlier this.
Oh, yeah.
Where they had their comeback and, you had them hitting a near half-court shot to send it into overtime. I wanted Kentucky, obviously, to lose because that's one of those blue bloods that you just want to lose. And it's like that's what with my kids, I'm like, that's what it's about. Those games right there. Those are the fun things right there.
These are the moments that make the NCAA tournament collectively the greatest tournament in all of sports. Now, look, I love the NFL playoffs. I love the NBA. But to have this magnitude of chaos at this level and the amount of games, like you get quantity, you get quality, you get, like I mentioned, OMG and WTF moments that are just right and left. Like this is it, folks. This is as good as it gets. Now, look, if you want the best basketball and you want the best athletes on the planet, yeah, you're going to enjoy the NBA and you're going to love the NBA playoffs. But more often than not, the best team's going to win. Best of 7 series pretty much guarantees that more often than not, the best team is going to find a way to get it done. So you will have individual drama for sure. You'll have LeBron with a chase down block and the Cavs coming back from 3-1 against the Warriors. Like there's always those signature moments. Don't get me wrong. Love it. And if you're looking for just pure, beautiful basketball, that's your game. But if you're just looking for straight chaos, the NCAA tournament, that's your jam right there. That's where it's at. That's what makes it so special is just the sheer ridiculousness of what you may see every single solitary night. All right, we got a lot to get to. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. There's a new sheriff up in town in Cache Valley. Let's talk about it. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to kick off the show with the biggest headlines of the day. This is your starting lineup on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, starting lineup right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, you got your man if you're Utah State. This was an interesting one. Last night, social media was hopping that it was going to be Mark Madsen. And that was interesting. And really, Sometimes this is what you got to be careful about it with social media these days, is that how quickly it can spread like wildfire. Rumors can turn into, and so there's these, this is what you got to be careful about. There was a radio guy here in Salt Lake City. Like, normally we all like each other. Honestly, we're competing. Like, Hans and I, we knew each other for a decade before we were able to do a show together, and we were super close. And we still are, even though he's not doing radio anymore, because we're just friends, right? That's my guy. And so you look across the board, there's a lot of guys that I've known, that I've competed against forever on radio stations I've worked with. So most of us get along really, really well. In fact, all but one. There was one Jack A who came into this market nobody liked. And his big thing was that he would say he was right about all these stories. No, what he would do, and there's a lot of media guys that do this, not just to point out this jackwagon, but there were a lot of other guys. There's a lot of guys out there, national and local. What they'll do is they'll see the way that the wind is blowing, and then they'll come in over the top and say, like, well, I can confirm this, and this. When you know that it's pretty much going that way, and you have no sources, you have no indication of what's going on. And that's why, look, I will never claim to be a journalist anymore. Like, I dipped my toe in the water a little bit. It wasn't any fun. I didn't enjoy it. So, you know what? We're essentially content creators. We're just sports radio schmucks. We're not journalists, okay? We're entertainers. Yeah. We just try to make you laugh and have strong opinions about some things. So, but you'll see these, some of these guys that will come way over the top and say, oh, it's going to happen. So last night, there starts to be this social media uprising. I don't know where it started. I don't know where it originated from, but there was this element of Mark Madsen's going to be the new head coach at Utah State. I even had assistant coaches at other staffs reach out to me and tell me that they thought it was a done deal. And so I start texting people. I'm like, hey, this could be going down. This looks to be happening. And then I get a text from somebody who very much would be in the know and said, I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I will tell you it's not Mark Madsen. And so it's like, oh, okay. Well, let's pump the brakes on that one. But it was really funny to see all of a sudden there was Cal insiders and other people that, other media members are like, well, I'm hearing it's all but done that he's the leading candidate. You don't know. So, again, that's why you got to be careful about this social media thing. A lot of times they're right. A lot of times this stuff starts brewing and it ends up coming to fruition. Sometimes it couldn't be further from the truth. One thing I can say is that I don't think Mark Madsen was ever in the mix. I don't think this was ever a case of Mark Madsen agreeing to terms with Utah State and then leveraging it for a new deal at Cal. From what I understand, I don't think Mark Madsen really was ever in the conversation. I don't think it was real. I don't think it ever had any substance to it whatsoever. So if somebody out there is saying, oh, it was done, no, it wasn't. It never was. Mark Madsen was never coming to Utah State. And frankly, I don't know how much Utah State even pursued Mark Madsen. I know there was very little to no conversations. Let's just say that. All right, so let's get to the guy who it is, Ben Jacobson. So the coach from Northern Iowa, and if you look at his resume, it's super impressive. Now, we all remember him leading Northern Iowa, about 14, 15 years ago to that Sweet 16 after they knocked off Kansas in the second round, a 9-1 upset to advance into the Sweet 16. Remember the crazy three-point shot with 20 seconds left when they're up 1 and they should run out the clock. Dude cranks the 3, puts them up 4, and essentially wins the game. By the way, that guy is now the head coach at Colorado State, so it'll be interesting to see those two battle each other in the new Pac-12. But tremendous coach. Look, you look at the resume, you look at the accolades. We can talk about what that means for Utah State. We can talk about what kind of success and style of play and all that other stuff. Look, there's time for that. We'll get to that. In fact, Cam Walker, athletic director at Utah State, is going to join us coming up at 1:05. Looking forward to chat with him as always. But I think if you're Utah State, you look at this and what does this mean? You've had a revolving door of coaches that have cycled through Utah State. And I've said this many, many times, and I'll continue to say it because it's kind of fun. Next year will mark my decade point of doing play-by-play for Utah State football and basketball. So 10 years, right? I got a full 10 years under my belt. Ben Jacobson will represent the 6th coach that I've worked with in 10 years. And only one of those guys was let go. That was Tim Duryea after my first year. Then I had 3 with Craig Smith. Then I had 2 with Ryan Odom. Then I had 1 with Danny Sprinkle. Then 2 with Jared Calhoun. And now Ben Jacobson. And the MO on the last 4 hires, Smith, Sprinkle, Odom, Calhoun, they all had all 4 of them had something in common. Okay, head coaches, young up-and-coming coaches. They didn't necessarily need to go to the NCAA tournament. Jared Calhoun had never been to a tournament. You go and look at Craig Smith at South Dakota. Never had been to an NCAA tournament. So you look at the 4 schools that they were coaching at, South Dakota, UMBC, Montana State, and Youngstown State. Not necessarily the who's who of college basketball. Now, I know UMBC had their moment in the sun when they knocked out Virginia, courtesy of Ryan Odom. But other than that, UMBC ever really moved the meter for you? Youngstown State really ever moved the meter for you? No, not really. Not at all. And so these were young, for the most part, I don't want to say unproven, but really kind of unknown commodities out there. And they've all come into Utah State, and they've all had tremendous success. Utah State's rolled the dice on 4 young coaches that were essentially unproven at that level of basketball. And they hit on all 4 of them. So you could say to yourself, well, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Here's the model. Guess what? You've rolled the dice 4 times. The chances of that hitting again, not necessarily great. You're going to get a dud eventually. It's just the law of averages. It's going to happen. And look, I'm not saying Ben Jacobson's going to be great. I don't know. But what I do know is that this Utah State has elevated itself as a program to where a guy who at Iowa, in Northern Iowa, and I know Northern Iowa isn't necessarily the who's who, but if you go back and you look at their resume, he's a 4-time Missouri Valley Coach of the Year. He's been to the NCAA tournament a bunch of times. He's been to the Sweet 16. He's got round 1 victories. Like, this is a well-established mid-major program where he could have finished out all of his days and ridden off into the sunset. They would have built a statue for him. They would have named the court after him. And he got to the point where he said, you know what? I want to elevate what I can do somewhere else. Where can I do that? At no point up until the last 3 or 4 years would he have looked at Utah State and said, that's where I can elevate myself. That's where I can elevate my opportunities to coach at a different level. So, again, I don't know what Ben Jacobson's going to do. We're all just going to wait and see together. If you're out there and you know how this is going to play out, you don't. It could be great. It could be a dud. I don't know. It's going to be a hell of a ride. But what you do know is that you as a program have elevated yourself to a point where that job becomes attractive at what would have been 10 years ago a path downward from Northern Iowa to Utah State. Now you're looking at as an increase in salary, an increase in NIL, an increase in exposure from a conference, increase in competition. Like, you go through all of those, and that's what Utah State has now. And I think that's something that you could sit back and say, all right, you take a lot of pride in that. And then you can evaluate him as a coach when the season starts. And you can evaluate him when the transfer portal opens. You can evaluate him in terms of retention. Retention is going to be really hard, though. It's just going to be hard. And I think in this day and age, you just kind of, look, Utah State lost a coach to essentially, for 2 reasons. Number 1, to go home. Well, actually 3 reasons. Number 1, to go home. That's probably number 1. Number 2 is the pay increase. And number 3 is the fact that it's a Big 12 conference. So those are the 3 reasons why Jared Calhoun went to Cincinnati. Well, guess what? 2 out of those 3 reasons are why Ben Jacobson's going to Utah State. More money and a better conference. So, yeah, you could say you're a stepping stone, but also you're a step up from what would have been considered an equal or higher than mid-major program than Utah State has been. But as I mentioned, retention is going to be difficult. It just is. You're going to have guys that are going to be offered a ton of money. I was talking to an assistant coach at a university outside the state, and he said that these coaches are now using these computer programs because, frankly, there's a computer program for everything these days. Thank you, AI, in which they have all the numbers of all the players and what they're getting paid in NIL. And you essentially punch in your player, you punch in the stats, you punch in the accolades. I don't know how it works. But essentially, it will push out a value of what that player would get if they were on the open market. And what, if you were a suitor for that player, what you would expect to pay. It's a lot like, when you sell your home or you're buying a home, they look at comparables and they say, okay, well, this home had the same square footage, the same amount of bedrooms in this neighborhood, 2 cul-de-sacs over, so you could essentially put yourself in the same price range. They have that for college basketball players. Computer program spits it out, says, okay, here's your comp. Mason Falslev, this guy told me the comp on him in terms of financials, over $3 million. Carson Templin, over $1 million. All right, so Ben Jacobson's got to go and say, okay, well, is it worth that? Do I need to do that kind of fundraising? That's a tough number to match. And if you do bring back some of those guys, which I am all in favor of, I'm not telling them how to build a team, but also you have to look at it from a building standpoint. This is professional sports now. What do professional teams do? They look at their players and say, okay, is it worth us to go out and bring that player back, or could we spend that money in different ways to help build a team? Now, I don't know the answer to that, but those are the conversations that are going to be happening. Because if you're a team out there that's got $20 million to spend, $3 million doesn't move the meter a lot. All right? But if you're a team that's got $5 million to spend, $6 million, yeah, $3 million, that's 50% of your budget. That's going to do some damage. And what kind of team can you build outside of that? So those are the questions everybody wants to know. Well, is this guy going to come back? This guy going to come back? Look, there are only a few moments in your life where you really, truly have leverage. I was told that over and over and over again in this radio world. You only have 1, 2, maybe 3 times in your life where you have leverage. You have to use that to your advantage. All right? When you're sitting at a poker table, you don't get pocket aces very often. When you get pocket aces, you got to make them pay off. So, right now, if you're a player out there, if you're Mason Falslev, you're Carson Templin, you got pocket aces, all right, what are you going to do with them? How are you going to play them? Because ultimately, the game's going to end pretty quickly, whether it's overseas or the NBA or whatever the case is. You need to make sure that you are in the best situation. I'll never, ever get after a player or a coach for leaving for more money because you never know when it's all going to end. All right, 12:26, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Cam Walker's going to join us coming up at 1:05. We'll take a trip back to the NCAA tournament. What a game last night as our Final Four is now set. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA is heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
Hey, I'm Josh Spiegel, host of the podcast Lunatic in the Newsroom. If you enjoy journalism that drifts into mild panic, wild overthinking, and a guaranteed nervous breakdown, Lunatic in the Newsroom is for you. It's news like you've never heard before. The only newsroom with a panic button. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and gasp in horror as the show spirals completely out of control. It's not just news, it's emotionally unstable. Lunatic in the Newsroom. Listen today.
Did you know dental pain is the top reason children miss school? Dental disease in children is almost entirely preventable. Good habits start early with brushing, regular dental visits, and fluoride protection. Your smile matters. Find resources at yoursmileutah.org.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did you have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
Bank of America champions everyone who dares to ask, what would you like the power to do? As a coach to 16 competitors in Augusta National Women's Amateurs, I ask myself this question every season. To help my athletes keep their eye on the ball, far beyond any course they play. Bank of America is proud to be a presenting partner of the Augusta National Women's Amateur.
Bank of America NA, member FDIC.
locked on to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
72-70, Duke by 2. Sarr to key the inbound now. Full court pressure from UConn. Sarr gets it into Cam Boozer. Boozer back to Sarr. Now ahead to Caden Boozer, and UConn got a steal. Caravan for Mullins. Long three. He got it! Oh, he got it! He hit it! He hit the long three-pointer from the logo with 0.3 of a second left to go. I don't believe it. UConn has taken the lead.
Highlight courtesy Westwood 1, the game you heard right here on the Zone. Wow. That is, look, we've seen some crazy things in the NCAA tournament. That's a great thing about the tournament. There's always weird stuff that happens all the time. And it's awesome. I mean, make no mistake. It's what makes the tournament so much fun. We talked about that in the first segment. But with every crazy moment, with every great shot, there's always usually a screw-up. And that's what we saw last night. And look,
that screw-up, by the way, that one hits close to home.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, somewhere Carlos is grabbing his sons and saying, yeah, about that. Let's not be making that pass. But, as much as you look at the pass, if you look at the body language of John Scheyer is not essentially telling his guys, and maybe this isn't fair. Maybe I'm misreading the body language, but it sounds like John Scheyer's like, pass, get the ball down court, get it down court. When in reality, all he had to do was just buckle down and just hunker over the ball, take the foul, go to the free throw line, knock down 2, and the game's over. That's all you got to do. Don't be crazy out there. Don't be doing dumb things like that. But boy, did they ever, and boy, did it make them pay. I look at the who was the Grateful Dead-looking dude that played at Gonzaga? Adam Morrison. Go back, for all you kids out there, Google Adam Morrison, Gonzaga, UCLA. That is another classic meltdown. Zags, and I think that was
best player in the country, I think, that year.
Yeah, he was. And I think that took them, I think that was a Sweet 16 game to go to the Elite 8. I can't remember, but essentially Gonzaga had a lead, and they just blew it down the stretch. Just absolutely blew it. This was probably 06, 07, somewhere around there. So, I mean, we're 20 years out from that. So that's another monumental meltdown. But the fact is, you've had Duke in back-to-back years with a meltdown against Houston, a game they should have won and lost that game, and then last night against UConn, and John Scheyer, who, I want to be careful when I say this. I think coaching absolutely matters, but the dude has inherited the best lineup available out there. Like, from top to bottom, you look at the rosters, nothing's going to compare to what he has. It's phenomenal. Best talent out there, highest paid budget, like whoever Duke wants, Duke probably is going to get. And what's he doing with it? They ain't going to the Final Four, that's for sure.
And they played with fire all tournament long, too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Even the 16-1 game.
Yeah. Yeah, they played with fire, absolutely.
And as the tournament's gone on, the more shakier they've felt. And last night, it bit him in the butt. You're up 19 against UConn. Just park the car in the driveway. And they couldn't get it done. Now, what you saw, too, and again, as much as we don't like Dan Hurley and as much as he annoys all of us, the dude can coach. And the dude's tough. And teams often replicate their coach. If you've got a tough, angry, hard-nosed coach, more often than not, your players are going to act like that because you're tough on them in practice. You're tough in what you expect out of them. Now, I don't know how tough John Scheyer is, but the dude doesn't exude a lot of that nasty mentality that you see out of Dan Hurley. Now, I don't know what he's like behind the scenes. I know Mike Krzyzewski always had that stoic attitude, and I guess he was a miserable SOB behind the scenes, and his teams took on that same kind of ideal, that same kind of premise. So maybe it's not fair for me to say that about John Scheyer, but one guy is really angry, tough, all this stuff that annoys you as a fan watching him on the sidelines. but his teams act like that. And so they're down 19. They're not going away. They're not giving up. You can't just kick that team to the curb and say it's done. No, they fought. They got ugly. They did what they needed to do, and they got themselves back in the game, and they made winning plays. There are some teams out there that just know how to make winning plays. UConn, from a talent standpoint, they have no business being in the Final Four. That team should not be playing at all. All right, Duke's far and away better than they are, talent-wise. But when it comes to upstairs and what's beaten in the old chest, UConn's got it. Duke doesn't. They just don't. They don't have it. And it's kind of fun if you're an anti-Dookie to see that team melt down, but also I think it's indicative of a head coach. And trust me on this one. Look, I have not listened to any Durham sports radio. I haven't dialed into what's going on in the Triangle today in North Carolina. But I can safely assume that there's a lot of Duke fans that want blood, that they want a head on a platter. And the only thing that makes them feel even remotely better today is the fact that North Carolina blew a 19-point lead in their loss earlier in the tournament as well. So you got Duke and North Carolina both blowing 19-point leads and both having exits far sooner than they would have expected. Whenever a one seed wets the bed like that, people notice. It was bad. It was just so bad. But boy, was it entertaining too. It was a fun game. Fun tournament. All right, so when you look at your Final Four, I hope I'm wrong on this. And knowing me, I probably am. But if you look at what's coming up this weekend in Indianapolis, you got Illinois and UConn. You got a 3 seed and a 2 seed. Okay, that's going to be fun, and I actually think UConn will probably win. I don't know. I'm going to probably take Illinois in that game. I like how Illinois is built. But what's really a shame, and why I think we need to, everybody wants to look at the NCAA tournament, and they want to expand it, and they want to make all these changes. I don't touch the expansion at all. I don't mess with that one bit. What I do, though, mess with is when you get to the Final Four, you reseed. Because that Michigan-Arizona game, that's your national championship. And if it's not, it's because the two teams beat the hell out of each other, and whoever wins that Illinois-UConn game can take advantage of it. But the two best teams in college basketball by a mile are Michigan and Arizona, and it's not close. So it bums me out that those two teams are playing for a spot in Monday's title game when if you really wanted to really accelerate the tournament and really make it a little bit better, you reseed them. And you put Michigan against, let's see, that would be Arizona would be the higher seed, so it would be Arizona against Illinois and Michigan against UConn.
Whatever we need to do, just make sure we have the best game as the championship. That's what needs to happen.
When Monday rolls around, you want the best game.
Two teams, yes.
Yep. That's not too much to ask for. So if you're out there and you want to rework the NCAA tournament and you're thinking, okay, let's add this. I don't think you need to do that. I don't think you need to go past 68. Frankly, I think you probably should go back to 64, but that's just me. But I get it. You're getting, 68, and eventually it's going to go to 74. We get it. You want more money. But if you really want to improve the tournament, reseed the top 4. And I think you frankly should, because when you're dealing with regions like that, that's, essentially you're going to have teams in the same, in regions are determining where they're going to play. Not necessarily the best teams 1 through 4 in terms of the seeding them in regards to, okay, we want this number 1 team to play this 4th number 1 team in the semis and the number 2 number 1 team and the number 3 number 1 team to face off each other. They don't do it like that. They're like, okay, hey, Michigan or, whoever was the number 1 overall seed, guess what? You get to choose where you go. Okay, you want that region? Okay, that's yours. And everybody bases it on geography because they want their fans to attend. And the NCAA tries to accommodate that for their fans, which fine. Okay, cool. Do that in the first rounds of the tournament. But when you get to the Final Four, those fans are coming regardless. So you don't have to worry about that nonsense anymore. And it's already a predetermined site. So reseed it. Reseed the thing. NFL does it. You go to the NFL playoffs. Hey, you know what? This team knocked off this team. Well, guess what? The number 1 seed went down. Okay, who's the number 2 seed? Well, guess what? Now you have home field advantage the rest of the way, and now you're playing the wild card team that came out of this. Like, it just makes too much sense. So instead of worrying about all this other nonsense, just reseed the Final Four. That's all you have to do. You don't have to reseed after every round. You don't have to reseed in terms of anything else. Sweet 16, Elite 8, don't worry about any of that. Just reseed the Final Four. They're all in the same spot. It's super easy. Come on. Why are we making this hard? It's not that hard. All right, 1245, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Cam Walker, athletic director at Utah State, will join us right here on the Zone.
The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA's heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
Hey, I'm Josh Spiegel, host of the podcast Lunatic in the Newsroom. If you enjoy journalism that drifts into mild panic, wild overthinking, and a guaranteed nervous breakdown, Lunatic in the Newsroom is for you. It's news like you've never heard before. The only newsroom with a panic button. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and gasp in horror as the show spirals completely out of control. It's not just news, it's emotionally unstable. Lunatic in the Newsroom. Listen today.
Did you know dental pain is the top reason children miss school? Dental disease in children is almost entirely preventable. Good habits start early with brushing, regular dental visits, and fluoride protection. Your smile matters. Find resources at yoursmileutah.org.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Hey, I'm Josh Spiegel, host of the podcast Lunatic in the Newsroom. If you enjoy journalism that drifts into mild panic, wild overthinking, and a guaranteed nervous breakdown, Lunatic in the Newsroom is for you. It's news like you've never heard before. The only newsroom with a panic button. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and gasp in horror as the show spirals completely out of control. It's not just news, it's emotionally unstable. Lunatic in the Newsroom. Listen today.
Breaking down the teams you're passionate about. This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. What you may have missed right here on the Zone. As always, brought to you by our friends at Paris RV. Want to thank them for being a part of the station as we take a look at the going-ons. Maybe we haven't had a chance to talk about it, but I tell you what, some great things going on with the Utah Mammoth. And again, what you may have missed, brought to you by Paris RV. Visit the full inventory at parisrv.com. All right, so we just mentioned it in that update, but what a game, what a absolute beatdown by the Kings. All right, so our resident hockey expert, Lloyd Cole,
really
joins us now.
Hi.
No, you're on board, man.
I am. I don't know if I'm an expert. But yeah, that was a heck of a game. And I think after watching that first period, they were up 3-1. I was like, wow, if this team, in fact, I put it out there on social. I said, if all games were just a 1-period game, this team would be the best team in the NHL because they come out quick and they put a bunch on you. And then they had sometimes they let teams get back in there, but they did not this time around. They kept the foot on the pedal.
That's what was
6-2.
Great to see. Yeah, because, and make no mistake, when they're up 3-1, don't think they don't have Alex Ovechkin running through their minds.
Oh, absolutely, and I think that's running through the minds of every. Like all of a sudden, if they let the Kings score a goal there and it becomes a 3-2 game at any point, which, by the way, it got a little interesting. I was wondering, I was like, man, are they going to allow another goal here? Because the Kings were putting on some pressure, keeping it in the offensive on the offensive side, and they were able to clamp down, get another goal, make it 4-1. And you're like, okay, there's a little bit of breathing room because all of a sudden 3-2 becomes, and you're thinking, oh, here we go again. And then all of a sudden the pressure starts on the offensive side, and and struggles, and it was good to see them turn it around.
Yeah.
And keep it going, should I say.
And that's what I thought was super impressive, too, is you had a lot. I mean, you got the Kings that are battling, trying to get back in the mix. You've got a lot of teams that you're fighting for playoff positioning. You got teams right behind you praying that you're going to lose. And you just given up a hat trick to Ovechkin at home. So how do you respond? Boom. Big one. We'll talk to Bill Armstrong, who it's always funny when and this is this is what we've noticed in hockey, and this will be the case when the Jazz get good again, which hopefully will be next year, is that there's waves to a season. And you kind of forget the ebbs and flows of a season because you're going to be looking at a team next year in the Jazz that will go on a 4 or 5 game winning streak, and then you'll see a team that will go on a 3, 4, 5 game losing skid. Well, we've seen that out of the Mammoth this year, and every Tuesday it gets a little different. You know, some Tuesdays it's like, hey, Bill, your teams are red hot. What's going on? And then there's sometimes where you're like, Bill, your team is ice cold. What's going on? You know, and it can turn just like that. And to see that this team took a really ugly loss and flipped it around and went on the road and knocked off a good team, not a great team, but a good team in the Kings. I think it shows you that this team's able to put the hammer down when they need to. And you could tell this team was really upset with themselves after that Washington loss. Like, that one hurt.
And they should.
Absolutely.
Like we talked, they had a 3-1 lead in that one. They had a 3-1 lead, and they ended up losing that one. So it was good to see them, be able to do that.
So the Mammoth, as we mentioned, will have a few days off, and I'm sure that'll be helpful. They do not play until Thursday. This team is
big
stacked
game,
together
a
big, against Seattle, for sure.
A team that's chasing them. That's about 7 points behind them. Mammoth right now, they sit with 82 points, 5 points better than Nashville in that that second wild card, and then now 6 points better than the Kings, who they just beat. So they definitely want that first wild card spot. They need that first wild card spot. You don't want to have to play the Avalanche.
All right, so I want to know in the Lloyd Cole house, and I'm going to make a guess here, and I know you're not jersey guy. But if you were buying a jersey for Xavier,
okay,
not necessarily who he would pick, but who you would pick for him. You've turned into a bit of a Kerfoot fan.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going. You know what?
Because
I don't want to go. I don't want to go with what everybody else has. I don't want to go with the Cooley.
Yep.
Or the Gunther.
Yep.
I want to do something that's a little bit.
You know
different.
which one I would go with?
Who?
If I was picking out a jersey for my kid, but I got to choose it, Sergachev.
Okay, I do like Sergey.
Yeah.
You know, my kids. You know what one they would want, right? Well, you want to know what Xavier wants? He wants a Cole jersey.
Oh yeah.
Because the last name Cole,
that
and
makes
by
sense.
the way,
yeah.
The number. His number.
Oh, really?
28, 28.
Yeah, you have to do that
He
now.
wants the Cole jersey.
Yeah, you have to do that.
He wants the Ian Cole jersey.
How did he come up with 28? Was it assigned to him?
I have no idea. He didn't take my 10. 10 was my number. I tried to push him in that direction. He didn't want it.
Well, it's probably because of Bo Nix. Probably ruined that.
Stop it. It's not Bo Nix. I don't know how he got to 28. Buster Posey, maybe. Maybe it was Buster Posey. Might have been.
Yeah.
Could have been.
By the way, do you see that fight I sent you on socials in the crowd at the Dodger game?
Yes. It's not a shocker. Dodgers fans are the worst.
What is it about Dodger fans behaving badly in the stands?
They're such a classless group.
You're in one of the best, most
How
iconic
could you possibly fight,
stadiums.
by the way? Everything's going well for you.
Exactly.
What do you have to fight about?
Come on. Your team's spending millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in payroll, more than anybody else.
You're winning as a fan base. What do you have to fight about?
You should be kumbaya the heck out of those games, man.
But no, not Dodgers fans.
Life is good.
You gotta fight with one another no matter what.
Quit your complaining. All right. That's what you may miss. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. As always, brought to you by Paris RV. All right, fired up for our next guest. He is the athletic director of Utah State University, Cameron Walker. He will be joining us coming up next as we will chat the hiring process. We'll see how much he lets us behind the curtain as to how this thing went down and why Ben Jacobson separated himself from the rest of the crew. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Believe it or not, this guy actually has friends.
Nice.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, kicking off your 1 o'clock hour, new sheriff in town at Utah State University, Ben Jacobson, replacing Jared Calhoun as the new coach. Joining us now, the athletic director who pulled the trigger on it and went through the entire process, Cameron Walker, kind enough to join us. Cam, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm better today.
Yes.
I'm better today, Scotty.
Than last week at this time. All right.
Yes.
So you told me that you weren't going to disclose the timeline, but you said there was a timeline. Did you meet your deadline?
I did. It was tomorrow.
Nice.
I got it.
You got it. Hey, I know urgency was important. Let's get to the root of it. What was it about Ben Jacobson that elevated him over other candidates?
Yeah, when you look at what he's accomplished and what he's done in his career, I think it was hard for us to picture getting where we want to go without someone that's been there before. And I think his accomplishments, his resume, and then you add to it, every person you talk to says exceptional coach, even better human being. It just kind of snowballed. And when you get in a room with him, I remember talking to another coach, but I got in a room with him and said, he's not telling you what you want to hear. He's telling you exactly what he believes. And Greg McDermott and I even had this conversation. I said, I'm not sure he's capable of telling me what I want to hear. And he said, he's not. He's just a straight shooter. He's going to tell you exactly what he thinks. And then, honestly, our vision, without me even expressing my vision, his vision for what he thought Utah State athletics could be and should be was exactly what we've been saying. And when those match up and you get a great human being to do the work with, sky's the limit, and we're super excited.
What is that vision that the two of you share?
I think it's about elevating the program. The second weekend's a big part of it. And also chasing down in the new Pac-12 the leaders, and those that'll have more resources. Certainly Gonzaga has done a tremendous job. And, you know, in league meetings, I've been conscientious to say we don't want to pull Gonzaga back to the rest of us. We want to elevate our programs so that we're at their level, not try and pull them back. And I think that's what we want to do. Like they've got a tremendous model, so it's only out of respect for what they've done. But like we want to catch them. We want to be a program like that. And in order to do that, I think we need, like I said, someone who's been there, but also some sustainability. I think it's just difficult if we go through this 1 to 2 year cycle to really build the momentum we need. We can be competitive. We can make the tournament every year, but it's hard to have that next level of success.
So I think that's interesting because that's the paradigm has shifted a little bit in terms of surviving at Utah State and now excelling at Utah State, because it's felt like for so many years a coach leaves and then it was like, okay, let's just find somebody to kind of hold on and keep it where we're at. You're looking at it like, okay, we've done this. Now it's time to elevate to this.
Absolutely. And, you know, when I look at coaches that are where we want to be, Sweet 16, Elite Eights, and the coaches, you know, as I looked around at the coaches in the Sweet 16, they're very experienced coaches. They've done a lot. They've got long resumes. They've been there, and they've got some battle scars, and Coach Jacobson has those. But we're not satisfied being an NCAA tournament team or an NCAA tournament participant. We want to chase it. And if you're not getting better and you're not trying to improve, it makes it, I don't know. That's what gets me up in the morning, and I can tell that's what gets Coach Jacobson up in the morning, and I think that's why he's a great fit.
To pry a guy away from a university where he's been at for, you know, over 2 decades and has had tremendous success, that's not easy to do. What was it about Utah State that made him decide? Because he's had opportunities in the past, but made him finally decide, okay, this is the program I want to leave to.
Yeah, he has had plenty of opportunities in the past. He's turned down some big time Power 4 jobs, and I think it was our alignment and vision. I think it was how we're resourcing this program, and it was his belief in us that he can chase those championships. I mean, he's not trying to make it back to the Sweet 16. He's got bigger thoughts than that, there's some scars that he has from just missing out on that next level, and he wants to get there. And he feels like this is a place where he can do it and really chase that success. And then certainly we wanted to convince him, and there's a lot of things positive here from the momentum of the school, the alignment between our board and our president and me. And I think those things were all enticing.
Cameron Walker, athletic director at Utah State, on the job for less than 6 months, and you got to make probably one of the most important hires in athletic department history.
Yeah.
No pressure there.
It comes at you quick. Yeah, no pressure. That's Stu Morrill and I talked, and that's basically what he said to me. We talked last week. I believe in getting that thought visit with the student athletes, got their thoughts. Called Stu, and Stu's advice was simple: don't screw it up. That's obviously what we're trying to do, but it's a pressure thing, and you feel the weight of it, and you want to get it right, and you want everybody to embrace it, but at the same time, getting it right for these student athletes is even more important than the rest of it, and so. As we sat down with all of our candidates, you're really viewing it from the lens of, will these guys, will Mason Falsub, will Carson Templin, will Jordy Barnes, all of them, right? Will they like this coach? Can I see them relating? How would they respond to this? And you try and view it for that lens and get the best coach for your student athletes because they're going to spend a lot of time together.
It's interesting you bring that up because when you're hiring, maybe 15 years ago, or even, frankly, probably 5 years ago, when you hire a coach, you're thinking, okay, who's the best coach for my program? But now it's an element of, well, who are they going to bring with them? How are they in fundraising? How are our current players going to relate to them? There's so many other little things that come into play now because of NIL and free transfers and all those other things. How hard is it to kind of clear through all of that? Or I guess how much importance do you put on that as opposed to, can the guy just flat out coach?
Yeah, I think for me, it's twofold. And because there's so many elements, I think it's helped me zero in the last few years as I've been a part of hires on what's the most important thing. And to me, it's will the student athletes have an unbelievable experience with the individual? Will he make them better? Will he make in this case, can he make them men and chase championships? And then can he flat out coach? And it's hard to check both those boxes. But this guy checks both those boxes. And I think it's just important as you go through that. There is so many things, but you have to keep the most important things, the main thing, in the top of your priority.
Cameron Walker, athletic director at Utah State, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. What has been the conversations throughout the process? You mentioned that you met with the team as soon as Jared Calhoun made it officially. He was on to Cincinnati, but what have those continued conversations been like? And has Coach Jacobson had a chance to chat with those guys yet?
Yeah, so Coach Jacobson had a chance to get with the guys on Zoom. I'm sure he's making some calls. We're also setting up some meetings and some stuff tomorrow after the press conference with them. And then really I've stayed in touch with 2 or 3 of them as much as they want to. A bunch of them have texted me and called me throughout the process just to stay connected. And I update them and I tell them exactly where we're at. And I don't talk candidate names with them because I don't think that's fair to put them in that spot. But I talked to them about the attributes and the interest and the type of candidates that we're looking at and quality of them. And I think that's been important through the process to just stay connected with them, again, as much as they want to be. Some of them haven't wanted to, and they're like, I need some space right now to do some thinking. And that's great too. It's at whatever level they've wanted to engage. But certainly some of them have engaged heavily, and it's certainly been on our mind as we've gone through this process.
There's a lot of conversations and Freedom of Information Acts in terms of contracts and things like that. There is a buyout courtesy of Jared Calhoun that would provide a bit of influx of resources available to you. How do you go about earmarking those? And is that a conversation with Ben in terms of NIL, or is that with Dalton on staff, or how do you determine how to immediately address the transfer portal, which will begin here in a couple days?
Yeah, and that timing was important. Why to get this done this week? We're a week, basically next Tuesday, that portal opens up. Obviously, I've said time and time again, talent acquisition and retention is the most important thing. And in this case, twofold, on the coaching staff and head coach, as well as on the player side. So certainly, we obviously probably not going to throw all that in 1 year, space it out a little bit, but we will use that money certainly in that space to elevate this program.
So when you look at Ben Jacobson and how he's adapted to this new world, there's a lot of, and I don't want to call it, there's a lot of grizzled veterans, I guess we should say, that have been around the league or been around college basketball and college athletics for a long time that have had a hard time adapting to this new world. How do you feel like he has done in that area?
I think he's done really well. And given the resources he's had and kind of hand he had, I think it's been incredible. He was there's been some complaints here about, our resources and how much we have and things of that nature. And certainly we're trying to build that and increase that as much as we can. I think this next year will, obviously be at a very competitive level. But for that cards he kind of had in his hand, I think he's played that really, really well. They're either their leading scorer or second leading scorer this past year was a transfer kid. He's done well getting the right kids and making sure that those are the right fit too. And I think that's important. And we've seen that. I thought Coach Calhoun did a terrific job with that as well, going to the portal for some of those needs and getting the right kid that can help you on the court, but also the right fit. And I think Ben understands both those and has been highly successful at doing that at Northern Iowa.
All right, so I'm going to steal a line from the first line you're going to issue tomorrow at your press conference because every AD says it, but sometimes it's true and sometimes it may not be true. How impressed were you with the level of candidates that wanted this job?
Very impressed. I'll try and state it more eloquently than that tomorrow. But the pool was incredibly deep. It was tons and tons of interest. We have a lot of people that candidly could do this job. There were a lot of people that you could envision being successful. That's great news. On the search side, it makes it very difficult to then say, okay, but who would be the very best? But I mean, high level of coaches that have accomplished a lot of things, whether it's, Final Fours, whether it's, assistant coaches at Final Fours, lots of high level stuff that they've accomplished and done and throughout the entire country. I think it speaks to that we were able to land somebody with a resume and as accomplished as Coach Jacobson, that this program has elevated. It's not the same program that we used to, and we can get people that are very established head coaches to be very interested in positions at Utah State.
I had a assistant coach that I've known for a long time at a P4 school reach out and said, I don't think I can get a sniff at this thing. And he goes, if I were at where I was at 6-7 years ago, I think I would have had a really good chance. But now I really don't think I've got any kind of chance whatsoever, just based on the quality of people that I know are going after this gig. When you cast a net, were there tangible, like specific things that you wanted to see, like head coaches, current head coaches, like initial, amount of 20 plus wins? Like, was there a number, like tangible numbers that you wanted to see in regards to whoever you're going to go after? Or was it just, let's go see what's out there?
I try and stay pretty open-minded early on. But then you kind of narrow as you go through the process, as you kind of see what's there. And you're able to get a few people into the pool that are really good. And now you kind of have a baseline of like, well, they got to measure up to this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where Ben was like, I'm talking to people, I know he's in the pool. It's like, well, that guy's fantastic, but he's not Ben Jacobson. Right. And so you're able to just kind of keep plugging through that. And after a while, you're like, well, it kind of sounds like we just need to go with this guy. And I think that was kind of the case here. But we were open to the idea that it could be a lead assistant at a Power 4. It could be a thing. But as we got through this, as we got through the list of qualities the team gave us, it just became apparent that that head coach experience was probably going to be really important. And that, somebody with the character like Coach Jacobson's known for was going to be a really, really good fit. His toughness, his discipline, his style of play all mesh really well with our guys. And you throw in how successful he's been at a place with, a fraction of our resources. It's exciting to see what he'll do once he gets here.
Have you heard from the head coach of Colorado State in terms of your hire?
I've not heard from him yet, but they know each other very well.
Oh, yeah. That was the guy that hit the shot when Northern Iowa went to the Sweet 16 with their win over Kansas in the NCAA tournament. And that's the thing. That's what's been really cool about watching this is, the success that he's been around and what he's been able to establish. Is there any conversation? And when I say this, I don't have any ulterior motives because, frankly, look, I'm on my, I think I told you last week that I've been doing this job for 10 years as the play-by-play guy. This will be my 6th basketball coach. And frankly, as long as they're all good dudes and they're easy to interview and they go to the NCAA tournaments, I don't care about the turnstile. But was that something that was on your mind at all in the interview process? Something that where you wanted to say, hey, you know what? We really want a guy that could put some roots down.
Yeah, certainly. Because I think if you look at who's in the Sweet 16, right, like getting to that next level, that most of those, if not all of them this year, are established and been there a while. And I think there's something about being able to take a team like we had this and retool it just a little bit and run it back. And I think there's something from a perception from the committee. I think that's how you get higher seeds, is putting together back-to-back good years, 3, 4, and they really value winning in the tournament. And so when you can win a game like we did this year, and then next year come back and do it, you've got a shot. And there's, again, those scars that come with that. I do think that to get where we want to go, we've got to have some level of continuity. To do what we've done, it probably works to run it back, bring in a new, the next successful young coach that's an up-and-comer. That probably works. But if they're gone in 2 years, we're having the same conversation, and we've been to 2 tournaments maybe, or made 1 tournament, but we're not progressing the program the way we need to. And so certainly that was an element here.
It's interesting, and ironically enough, it was Jared Calhoun who told me this, that sometimes coaching fatigue can impact fundraising, in which somebody out there that you need to try to get some funds from is like, well, I don't know who I'm going to be working with every year, and I don't really want to commit because I just can't really develop a relationship with a coach. And have you noticed that as being a bit of a problem?
Yeah, I think that's real. I think fortunately, the donors that I've spoken to, both pre this and post this, have reiterated our commitments to Utah State in this program. we are locked in on this program. So I'm incredibly grateful to those for their enduring. But I do think it helps when they have certainty. They're investing, right? They're investors. They're shareholders. They're sharing in this vision and investing their hard-earned money to help us accomplish the vision that we're trying to attack. And when that vision's changing every couple of years, that's really difficult to grab hold of and to really sink your teeth into. And so I do think that it helps when there's a sustained approach, both in the success, but also in the generation of funds to support that cause.
Cameron Walker right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I know you probably have anybody, you can't fill up a tank of gas at Maverick or go to the grocery store without somebody saying, hey, have you seen this coach? Hey, do you know anything about this coach? You probably even had media schlubs that were texting you ideas on who you could go after. So with all of that, how do you drown out that noise? Because you want input, you want insight, and some of it could probably be good, and some of it's like you just toss it away. But ultimately know that it's your hire and your name's attached to it. How difficult is it to kind of crowd out the noise a bit?
It can be hard, yeah. And there's lots of ideas and lots of things, and you have to let people know that it's not a disrespecting. It's not it's not anything other than how seriously you take this responsibility and your conversations that you personally have with the student athletes and with the key constituents, and knowing, okay, I hope I have a bigger picture than those that are at Maverick filling up their gas with me. And because I know some things they don't know, that they're well-intended. The worst thing's apathy. No one cares who I'm hiring. That's terrible. But so the interest is great. And early on, I welcome it. I welcome it. I try and get as much data and as much input as points. But there becomes a point in a search where you kind of have to lock down. I kind of have to lock myself in a place and lock the team up and say, all right, let's put everything away. Let's go to work. And we got to find the best person, because these student athletes really matter, and Utah State basketball really matters. And as much as people will agree or disagree or anything with a hire, like that responsibility to get it right weighs heavy. And you have to kind of set aside feelings or people pleasing to get it done. But it's hard because a lot of those people are truly care about the program as much as you do. But you just try and all you can do is do your very best job and lock in. But there comes a point where you have to kind of, okay, I've collected enough data and enough opinions. I got to lock in.
All right, before I let you go, I know I keep you way too long. I apologize. But social media sometimes gets buzzing, and I don't know how much you are on social media in this process, but all of a sudden a name will get thrown out, and then it just starts snowballing, and then pretty soon it's all but done that this will be the next head coach at your university. I was seeing stuff kick up last night. I looked over at my wife and I said, I bet he's having some fun with this because the names that were being thrown out weren't the ones he ultimately got going. So what's that like when all of a sudden your phone starts blowing up and people are like, hey, is this the guy? And you're like, no, it's not the guy. Like, how's that from your perspective?
It's interesting, and it's kind of a balance. It certainly was interesting. I don't know how those get started. And some of it, like sometimes sometimes you're like, oh, we talked, or I get how that got going. Some of these this time I had no idea how they got started. There were certainly some that were rumored that we never talked to. And again, nothing against them. Tremendous coaches. They probably would have been great in the search, but like that's not where the search went, and that's not who we talked to. But it definitely is interesting. And I'm not sure I've seen them where they got as far along. Normally they get shot down sooner, but yeah, I almost made a hire I wasn't aware of.
Well, hey, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks for joining us. Look forward. We'll be up there tomorrow at 9 a.m., and we'll carry the press conference live here on The Zone. But congratulations. I know it may have been a quick hire, but certainly it wasn't a less work-intensive hire. So we appreciate it, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Awesome. No, I look forward to it. We'll see you tomorrow, Scotty.
You got it. There he is, Cameron Walker, athletic director at Utah State. All right. So there you go. Mark Madsen was not going to be the guy. Sorry.
Huh.
Yeah. I like how he just said, like, I almost hired a guy that I never even talked to. All right.
Funny how that works.
The man himself, Jay Stevens, joins us next right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA is heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
This is Mike Bolo of Lexicon Valley.
And I'm Bob Garfield. Are you one of those people who sometimes uses words?
Do you communicate or acquire information with, language?
Hey, us too. So join us on Lexicon Valley to chew over the history, culture, and many mysteries of English, plus some wisecracks.
Find us on one of those apps where people listen to podcasts.
Did you know fluoride is not available in Utah water systems, and fluoride supplements work best from 6 months to 16 years old? A healthy smile isn't just about teeth, it's about health and confidence. Your smile matters. Find resources at yoursmileutah.org.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
This is Mike Bolo of Lexicon Valley.
And I'm Bob Garfield. Are you one of those people who sometimes uses words?
Do you communicate or acquire information with, language?
Hey, us too. So join us on Lexicon Valley to chew over the history, culture, and many mysteries of English, plus some wisecracks.
Find us on one of those apps where people listen to podcasts.
On to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, we said we're going to give Jay Stevens a little bit of a rest. We're going to let him just chill. It's a road trip. We're going to let him relax a little bit. We're not going to get him on the air. We've abused that privilege way too much. And then, bam, just like that, Mammoth go and put the Kings in a chokehold and ended up winning that game, going away. And we're like, all right, we got to get Jay back. Jay, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here. Don't ever give me a rest. I love talking hockey.
Yeah, you could look. You can be you can be between the pipes with us anytime. We love it. We appreciate it. All right, so
I appreciate it too.
So that was an old-fashioned butt kicking. How impressed were you with that?
Yeah, not just the score, but the creativity and the absolute offensive brilliance that the Mammoth were showing that night was just so much fun to watch. I mean, we've been talking about it all year, how this offense is just built to be fast and high flying and super creative. And man, it was just on display against the Kings team that's been fighting for a playoff spot. And, it really looked like they'd righted their ship and were going to be a real challenge. It was, the Mammoth were not favored going into that game. So to see them come out and explode like that and to see those 2 goals that Cooley put in, just phenomenal.
So you're right. This wasn't a game against a team that was just kind of getting ready for their trip to Cancun and ready to shut it down. This is a team that was highly motivated to play and play well, and to do that on their home ice, it makes it even the more impressive.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, a lot of people just figured the Kings were going to take this one. I think even a lot of Mammoth fans were giving up on the team a little bit based on, what happened with Washington and with Edmonton. So I think it was pretty cool to watch that huge explosion. And that, the creativity, I just was at the practice facility and I was going to go in and ask Sergachev or Cooley, because, I'm at a lot of the practices and I've never seen them do that, so basically an icing, it's the hybrid icing where Cooley zipped into that puck that it looked for all intents and purposes like Sergei had iced it, and Cooley skated right into it, nullified the icing, and just put that in. I wanted to ask, like, is that something they worked on, or did it just work out that way? Because, man, it was just so pretty, and it obviously caught LA way off guard.
So you go up 3-1, but you also had a 3-1 lead against the Capitals, and we all know how that ended with Ovechkin going nuts. So to see them say, okay, 3-1, guess what? We're going to extend it, and I think it was 5-1 after the second period. What does that say about this team that are like, no, we're not letting that happen again?
Well, one, it says they're learning from their mistakes, right? And there were a couple opportunities for maybe some more physical play or for some fights or something like that with LA. You could tell LA was trying to do something to get their team back into it, and the Mammoth didn't fall for it. And they weren't going to, extend the courtesy of a fight or even getting into too much of the rough stuff and give LA a chance to get back into it, or more likely take the Mammoth out of it. It's showing some progression. It's showing some maturity. It's showing that the coaching staff really is getting through and making those changes and making those adjustments. Because with what happened in Washington, that kind of exposed to the rest of the NHL that maybe there is a button you can push with Utah and find a weakness with them and throw them off their game. All you got to do is, bang them around a little bit, drop the gloves with a couple of them, and get the hive mad. And they kind of go with that hive mentality. But instead, you saw more of a maturity. You saw they didn't take the bait. So I think it speaks volumes that, it may just be game to game, but they're learning, and I think they're really starting to get prepared for playoff hockey.
You mentioned that you would like to see bare minimum 4 points coming off this 3-game road trip. We kind of anticipated 2 would come against Vancouver, but now you got 2 already on this trip. Now it's time to get greedy, right?
Yeah, I mean, take all you can get. It's a scary situation when you keep looking at those standings. It was nice that Nashville lost the other night. It's nice to have a little bit of a gap, but when you take a second and you look at the rest of the team's schedules, they also have the teams that are chasing Utah have pretty reasonable schedules coming up. So, like I mentioned, LA is playing Vancouver 3 times. So that could give LA a little bit of a push. Seattle's coming up, but the good thing is Utah plays Seattle. Then Utah goes to Vancouver, and Utah actually plays Nashville next week at home too. So there's chances for Utah to take care of their own business and, clean up their own yard, as you want to say. And they're in the driver's seat. So as long as they win, and yeah, we wanted 4 points. I just can't see them losing to Seattle or Vancouver.
Really?
On the road. I just can't. Like, Seattle's been struggling. Vancouver's been struggling for 10 straight years.
Yeah.
And it's terrible. It's just the weirdest thing up there. They get these amazing goaltenders, and then like with Thatcher Demko, and he cannot stay healthy. And that's happened with a bunch of their goalies that they've had. They get up there, and for some reason, something happens, and they just can't keep their starting goalie healthy. So Vancouver's doing what Vancouver does. Seattle had lost 5 straight last I checked, maybe 4 straight. And so with Utah kind of looking like they're starting to peak, if they play like they played in LA, they go into Seattle and Vancouver with that same game, I think that's 4 more points.
Well, I mean, to come out of this 3-game road trip with 6 points would be just absolutely a boon to this team, especially coming off that loss. Is it hard? And, I don't know. Have you ever watched, what's the show, the soccer coach, Ted Lasso?
Ted Lasso, yeah.
Is it, he makes a joke about having the mind of a goldfish where you just forget it. And is that hard to do as a player, or is it kind of easy when the games come at you so quickly?
Man, it's both. And as a goaltender, that's always had to be your mindset, is that it doesn't matter what you just did. I'll use one of Bill Armstrong's quotes, is that, the rent is high in the NHL and it's due every day. It's the same thing where, like, you just have to have the mentality that I just did this, and I know I can keep going. I know I can be better. And if, like for a goaltender, if you give up a weird one, and we saw Veggie give up a really weird one against LA, not the other night, but the last time they'd played, he gave up a weird one off the boards. And yeah, you have to just say, that was a fluke. That's not who I am. The team has to have that same mindset too. With 82 games, next season it's going to be 84 games. With 82 games, you got to be like, I know I'm not going to be at my best every night. And that's why there's backup goalies, right? Rest, and also sometimes you're not at your best, and that goes for every player. Yeah, you're not going to be your best every night, but you learn from those losses, you learn from the mistakes you made, but you let the rest of it slide away. So yeah, you've got to forget the bad stuff, remember the good stuff, and like good coaches always say, we either win or we learn.
Yeah.
And that's a hockey player's mentality. They take everything they can from the losses just to make themselves better.
So in a season, considering the Olympic break, they've jammed in as many games as they can in kind of a short amount of time. So you don't get a lot of rest, but to be able to go from Sunday to Thursday and have a little bit of a break, how important is it for this team at this point in the year?
Yeah, perfect timing, right? They've got what, three road games and 4 home games left. And they get this nice little break to get everybody healthy. At the skate this morning, I was kind of surprised because I thought maybe with load management and just having this time off, maybe they'd give Veggie the day off. But man, I got there. He was the first guy on the ice. Him and Vanacek went out for they did a half hour of goalie drills before the practice started. The only player not dressed today was Gunther. Everybody else was out there playing hard, and they had a really good spirited practice. And they were really working on some just minor details. But I mean, Bear was stopping them and making them go over the details. And so I think this break comes at a perfect time. Let's fix these little things that have cost us, cost goals for the Utah Mammoth, and then just take the rest of the day off. And I wouldn't be surprised if they made one of the next practices optional. But again, it's these guys are hungry, they're having fun, and they know what they're chasing, and they want to work on those details. Even when practice was over, a lot of the guys stayed on the ice and worked on little skill things. And there were a bunch of guys on shooting with the goalies and working on skills. So the time off is great, but the Mammoth are not taking it lightly.
All right, so I asked Lloyd this earlier. If you had a kid that you were buying a jersey for, so your son is – like I've got a 14-year-old son, Lloyd's got an 11, where they're just all in on the hockey right now. And you want to buy him a jersey, but you want to teach your kid not to be a front runner, right? You're like, okay, you know what? Dig a little deeper, find somebody on the team. Don't necessarily go your superstars, but find somebody that you can latch onto, like the glue guy or the guy that you really want them to emulate. So eliminating the superstars on this team, if you were to buy a jersey for your kid with that criteria, who would you go with?
Carcone. Hands down.
Nice.
You want to talk about a guy that's not a top 6 guy who, like, I mean, I've preached his story all year because, he didn't get to play a lot last year. It was frustrating for him. He had done everything he had to do in the AHL to earn a spot in the NHL. He was the AHL leading scorer the year before he got pulled up. And to be left out like that, to be super frustrated, he said it with grace that, hey, I'm not going to be here next year. And then he went back home, did some growing up, had a good meeting with Bill Armstrong, got re-signed, and has just come in with the work ethic and the tenacity on the ice. He doesn't give up on plays. He goes in the corners and fights for pucks. He does everything you ask for. So if I'm gonna buy my kid a jersey, I've been saying Lawson Krause all year. He's been one of my favorite players, but he's a top 6 guy.
Yeah.
So if you want to go outside of the top 6, I think it's Carcone hands down, and I think he's gonna get, the player awards when they give, like the we used to call it the Little Plugger Award. A lot of and Trevor Lewis won it for a ton of times for just like the Unsung Hero Award. I think you have to give it to Carcone.
I love it. Well, Jay, appreciate it, man. This is a tradition. If they beat Seattle, we're going to have you on Friday, okay?
Sounds good. I'll be there.
Let's go. There he is, Jay Stevens, host of the Utah Puck Report. He is the guy that has educated all of us on the great sport of hockey. He's forgotten more about hockey than any of us will ever know, and he's an overall good dude. And he'll pull you out of a fire and save your house at the same time, too. Not a lot. Look, hockey player, firefighter, that's a man's man right there. All right, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Coming up a little bit later on, we'll chat with Mitch Harper, get his thoughts on what's going down at BYU. Spring ball in action. We'll recap the NCAA tournament, what we're looking ahead to at the Final Four. It's all right here on The Zone.
The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA is heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
Hi, this is Alex Kantrowitz. I'm the host of Big Technology Podcast, a longtime reporter and an on-air contributor to CNBC. And if you're like me, you're trying to figure out how artificial intelligence is changing the business world and our lives. So each week on Big Technology, I bring on key actors from companies building AI tech and outsiders trying to influence it, asking where this is all going. They come from places like NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, and plenty more. So if you want to be smart with your wallet, your career choices, in meetings with your colleagues, and at dinner parties, listen to Big Technology Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Did you know dental pain is the top reason children miss school? Dental disease in children is almost entirely preventable. Good habits start early with brushing, regular dental visits, and fluoride protection. Your smile matters. Find resources at yoursmileutah.org.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did you have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
Hi, this is Alex Kantrowitz. I'm the host of Big Technology Podcast, a longtime reporter and an on-air contributor to CNBC. And if you're like me, you're trying to figure out how artificial intelligence is changing the business world and our lives. So each week on Big Technology, I bring on key actors from companies building AI tech and outsiders trying to influence it, asking where this is all going. They come from places like NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, and plenty more. So if you want to be smart with your wallet, your career choices, in meetings with your colleagues, and at dinner parties, listen to Big Technology Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Breaking down the teams you're passionate about. This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Remember, tomorrow we will be out at Tim Daly Mazda, Southtown. Hey, guess what I did over the weekend? Well, I guess I should say what my wife did over the weekend is she went down to Tim Daly Mazda, Southtown, and picked herself up a brand new 90. Lease was up, so she wanted to stay in a 90, so boom, traded the old one in, got the new one. Lease is up. Now we're on a new lease, and off we go. And
you
by
made
the
sure
way,
that was electric, right?
And by the way, payments went down, actually. Wow.
Tell me more.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, you know what? You think that everything's going up and everything's getting crazy? Not necessarily.
So is it electric or is it still gas?
It's the hybrid.
Okay. All right.
So we're right there in the middle.
Right there in the middle.
Yeah.
Not a terrible idea considering how much gas is at right now.
Oh, yeah. You posted a nasty, nasty picture this morning.
I was very angry this morning.
I could tell.
The last time I had filled it, it was under $4. It was under $4, which it was already high. And yes, it was like $4.47 for the good old number 88.
You put 80. You didn't go to 85.
I didn't even go to the cheap. No, I have to go with the 88. Yeah, I've got to go at least the 88.
Okay, you can tell a difference if you don't do it.
Well, I just worry that you don't want anything being messing with the old engine or anything like that. I think there is a difference.
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah.
Well, good for you, man. That's a hefty price tag.
Yeah, nearly paying $70 in gas is not fun.
No.
In fact, I messaged the wife and I said, "Yeah, we're going to have to plan out our trips for baseball and all this stuff a little bit. We're going to have to be a little more strategic.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing, too. Like, you got a lot of traveling baseball this summer. This is your hot
We're
season.
Like going to, I'm just talking about places, tournaments that are maybe around this area, like Ogden, out past like Provo.
So you're not even
St.
talking
George,
like Mesquite or Vegas?
No. These are still like not necessarily in the valley. There's some that are, like I said, Ogden, and that's not exactly close. That's still like 45 minutes. That's a little bit of gas right there. Just there.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, you know what, we're going to have to be, because there's times where maybe she's able to get the kids, to wherever they need to go, and then maybe I'll meet there. It's like, no, we're going together. We are not separating. We're not driving two cars.
Oh, man.
If that happens, I'm just not going.
I'm just
won't do it.
I don't know, man.
$70.
The whole crude oil thing seems like it's a bit of a, I don't know. I guess I shouldn't say. I don't know it well enough. It just seems like this thing can get manipulated so easily.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say it's not going to get cheaper.
No, it
It's
doesn't
not
seem
getting
like
cheaper right now.
Doesn't seem like it.
It is skyrocketing.
Remember,
and I don't even have a diesel. Everybody that says they have a diesel, they're like, well, try having a diesel. It's like, there's a reason I'm not going with the diesel. I don't want to pay that much.
Yeah. Yeesh. And if you got a diesel, you don't have a 12-gallon tank on a diesel. No, that's a you problem. You need to size down.
You're going to be paying well over $100.
$100 a tank, easy.
Well
easy.
over.
Easy.
I thought I saw somebody that said it was like $150 or $140, something like that.
Oh, man.
That's insane.
Yeah, that makes me sick to my stomach. All right, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Mitch Harper on the other side. We'll chat a little BYU with him right here on the Zone.
Believe it or not, this guy actually has friends. Nice. This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, kicking off the final hour of the show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Let's bring in good friend of the program. He is Mitch Harper, Cougar Insider, KSLSports.com. Mitch, how the heck are you, man?
Doing good, Scotty. I don't know if I'm as good as probably Aggie Nation right now because Ben Jacobson, that's a really good hire.
See, you know, it's interesting, and I know you like this because this is just the life we live as members of the sports media. The discrepancy between those that are the national media or college basketball insiders or those that have been around the game, their opinion of this hire, and then your Aggie fans on Twitter are very, very different right now. And I don't know if it was because the Mark Madsen stuff blew up last night and everybody got really fired up about that, which, as Cam Walker just joined us, said he's like, I don't know where this was coming from. He's like, I apparently hired a guy that I didn't even talk to. And so I don't know why it is, but Aggie fans not overly thrilled, but anybody who knows the game of basketball and has been covering the game of basketball thinks this is a big hire.
Yeah, it seems like a guy, too, that would stay a long time, too. Maybe, 5 years at least and be someone that wants to build a program. I mean, he did it at the Missouri Valley. And I think, too, what kind of caught my attention was just, again, the Pac-12 is going to be, the best of the rest and right there be one of the best leagues in college basketball next year. I think it's going to be a really good football league too. And I think that is a big step up from the Valley. And to get a guy that was there for 20 years, that's big time. He's got to a Sweet 16. I just think it was a really good hire. And that's why I had to bring it up because I think that's a huge get for Utah State and someone that can really cement himself potentially as a long-term guy instead of just being the up-and-coming 2-year guy and then exit, be someone that can build a program like Stu Morrill did back in the day.
Obviously, spring football's got your attention right now. If you are Kevin Young, what's your and this is with the knowledge that or the anticipation that A.J. DeBonsa will leave, which I think we all know and anticipate will happen. What's your first order of business, knowing that you got Branch coming, but trying to build out this team going forward?
You got to have shooters, and I think that a lot of focus is going to be, I think, from fans on the defensive side, and they do need to get better. Even though it was probably hard to see it in stretches this season, but I do believe that they did get better this season defensively in moments and stretches of this season. BYU did have some times where the product did look better on the defensive end, but I think ultimately the offense took a big step back this season, and they should have been a lot better, at least what they looked to be on paper going into the year, but they didn't have consistent shooters, guys that could knock down threes. And I think when you had a guy like AJ DeBonsa, you needed to have shooters around him, and they just didn't have that. And that even included when Richie Saunders was in the lineup. He was up and down shooting the three. He had some games where he was 0 for 7. And Bruce Branch is not like AJ DeBonsa. He's more a catch and shoot type of guy, but he's also a good passer too. And he's really standing out in the McDonald's All-American practices this week down in Arizona. And I think that, shooting's going to be key. I think that ultimately you got to have offense, and you got to be a team that can put it in the hole consistently. And I just don't think that BYU had enough of that outside of AJ, who consistently could always get to his spots and get his, but he just didn't have the shooters around him. And I think that was the biggest issue. And that's what Kevin Young is going to have to look for quite a bit in this portal and building out this team for next year. They also bring in Dean Rickert from the high school ranks, but they've got to retool through the transfer portal, and shooting is going to be a top priority.
What's your anticipation of the decision of Rob Wright?
I expect that he would be back. And, Rob Wright has really enjoyed his time at BYU this season. And Kevin Young believes in Rob Wright that they can build around him. Now, I think Wright, though, has got to, if he does run it back and returns to BYU, he's got to be someone that can bring it all together and unify the team and maximize everyone's talents around him. I think one of the knocks on Rob Wright this past season, defensively, there were some lapses. I do think at the end of the season, the postseason, he got better, particularly in the Big 12 tournament, because it kind of hit rock bottom in that loss at West Virginia. But, you saw a big step back in play on the offensive end from Keba Keita from his junior season to his senior year. And I think the biggest change was going from Yegor Dielman to Rob Wright. And that changed things because Rob Wright was taking a lot of that space, that real estate in the paint, where maybe Keita was operating freely with Yegor, who was actively looking for him on alley-oops and getting him involved early and often in games as that rim rolling five that Kevin Young loves in his system. That changed. And I think Rob Wright's got to be better at looking beyond just simply the superstar guy with him. And that was AJ this past year. And Bruce Branch would expect it to be that type of guy, depending on how this roster comes together. But I think Rob Wright, is someone that you want to continue to build with, I believe. And I think that he's not a bad guy in terms of the locker room. I think he's just a little bit too quiet. He's really young, and he's still kind of like a kid, even though there's been big dollar amounts attached to his name and what that's been, the movement that he's had from Baylor to BYU. Can he really become a leader of the locker room? And I think that's going to be the challenge for Rob Wright, and where I have maybe the biggest questions, because when you look at that, early roster for next year, if Rob Wright was to run it back, he would be looked upon to be the guy, because you're not going to bank on Bruce Branch to be that guy. It needs to be someone who's been part of it, and would be Rob Wright. And can he take on that role? I kind of compared a little bit to LJ Martin in football, where he was so young and so quiet. And, now he's evolved into that leader for the football side. Can Rob Wright take a jump like that if he does return to BYU? And I expect that, he would be back at BYU if he does decide to stay in the college ranks.
With where Damon went in the draft and where we anticipate AJ will go in the draft, and considering Yegor's first year in the NBA, that if the money's even, which I know BYU can hang with anybody financially in college basketball, so that shouldn't be a problem. How appealing now is playing basketball at BYU for a kid coming out of high school?
I think it's very appealing because, Kevin Young is shown, he's given proof of concepts. That's what Kevin Young's all about, proof of concepts. And I think that, if you're a high school prospect who has aspirations to be a one and done and go to the NBA, you're going to be prepared for the National Basketball Association. I really believe that Yegor going 8th overall last year was in part because of the respect that the Brooklyn Nets had for Kevin Young. Next to the Utah Jazz, the Brooklyn Nets were the second most, frequent visitor to that annex the year that Yegor was playing at BYU. Brooklyn was always on the scene watching Yegor's games and being in Provo to see him in person. I think a part of it was because they believed that Yegor was being prepared and trained like a pro, where many mock drafts going into last summer's draft had Yegor around 14 and lower. The Nets took him at 8 because I think there was a lot of confidence that they knew that he was being trained like an NBA player already, that when he'd step into the league, he'd be able to contribute right away. And that happened despite, up and down 3-point shooting at the college ranks from Yegor. He was really consistent before his injury this rookie season with the Nets, to where he set, a rookie NBA record for most consecutive games with at least one 3-pointer, which would have been crazy to say during his time at BYU because he was in the 20s in 3-point shooting. So I think Kevin Young's got a lot of respect of NBA front offices, the way that he develops and trains players. And you saw that too with AJ, that he got better over the course of the season. So the whole NBA development is definitely there. Now, can Kevin Young also turn that NBA development, which is proving itself to be very beneficial? And he wants that to continue to be a part of his program, because he made it clear that it was bittersweet to leave the NBA and potentially lose those connections to the NBA. Well, the bridge to that is getting these young, promising one-and-done guys, and that's allowed him to maintain those relationships. So that's going to be a key piece for BYU's program, but can they parlay that into more consistent on-court success at the college ranks? Because it is different games, and that's going to be finding that happy balance for Kevin Young going forward. And I do think there were some lessons learned this season for Kevin Young that he's going to apply in the years going forward. Finding maybe guys that aren't necessarily the greatest measurables or the greatest, NBA bodies potentially, but maybe they're just great college players, and leaning into that a little bit more in building out the depth of the roster rather than just focusing solely on measurements and verticals and things like that, and big bodies that look like NBA personnel. So finding that happy balance will be important going forward for Kevin Young and his program to try to get back to future Sweet 16s down the road.
How much considering that there are a lot of built-in excuses, the Richie Saunders injury, the other injuries that took place earlier in the year, is not making the Sweet 16, how bitter of a taste in the mouth of Kevin Young in this program is there right now?
It's really bitter, and it's a huge disappointment, because even without Richie, they still should have won at least one game.
Yeah.
But this is a team that was built in the investment financially, and the number exactly what it was. Unless we saw every single contract, we wouldn't know specifically. But there was a strong commitment financially to go make a real run at this thing, and you get bounced in the round of 64 like many BYU teams that didn't have a dime attached to its name. So it looked very similar to what BYU fans have really grown accustomed to their whole time watching BYU basketball, getting bounced, giving up career days to a guy in the NCAA tournament. That's the same song and dance BYU's always played. So huge disappointment. And to have one of the 4 best players in college basketball, because AJ's a finalist for the Naismith, and to just get bounced in the first round, that's disappointing. And the thing is that I always point to, we saw issues even in non-conference play before the arrest of Kennard Davis, before the injury to Dawson Baker, before the injury to Richie Saunders. We saw issues with this team as early as even the Delaware game in early November, where they're giving up, they're in a big double-digit deficit at home to Delaware. And, Delaware was not a great team this year, and they were faced with a hole. And so there were issues even early on before all of the things started to stack up against them. The good thing for BYU, though, over the past, season was that AJ elevated his game and he evolved, but there were issues all along the way, and it never felt like it all just clicked completely for BYU. Maybe the Clemson game was maybe its peak when Rob Wright hit that thrilling bucket. But even in that game, they're down 20 plus at half, and they needed an amazing comeback to pull it off. So again, it never fully clicked night after night for a full 40 minutes like that first year with Kevin Young, where they reeled off 8 straight to close out the season and got to the Sweet 16. This team just never had that at any point this year. And for that, I think it makes it a really disappointing year.
All right, let's switch gears. Let's talk football as spring ball continuing on. What have been the storylines that have really jumped out at you so far?
I think one of the big things that's kind of caught my attention is that how Kalani Sitake has noted that Kelly Poppinga is exceeding his expectations as a defensive coordinator. Kalani has made it known, with anyone that will ask or he'll talk to is that K-Pop was the guy that, he wanted to appoint as the defensive coordinator, to the point where he was even in the back of his mind thinking if Jay Hill leaves, and I'm sure Kalani knew better than anyone that there was real opportunities every offseason for Jay Hill to bounce. So Kalani was probably building out his own big board of potential DC targets, and the guy that Kalani says was atop that target list was Kelly Poppinga. And with only 1 week left in spring ball, Kalani has said that K-Pop is exceeding expectations that he had coming into spring with the way that he's managing the defense and overseeing this thing. And that's got to be nice for Kalani, because Kalani, of course, having his background with defense and still having, Gary Anderson and then Chad Kahaha still on the staff. He's now elevated to the outside linebackers role. They still maintain Justin Enna, who just takes on special teams. He managed the loss of Jay Hill, which was significant and a big departure. And I'm curious to see what this looks like with Kelly Poppinga this season. But Kalani has never been one to just go out of his way to say he feels really good about a certain or to embrace conversation about expectations. For him to say that K-Pop is exceeding his expectations and that he's really confident this is going to be a good thing defensively, I thought it was noteworthy from Kalani, because, again, he just doesn't play that game. He goes into a lot of coach speak more times than not, and he's been really impressed with Kelly Poppinga's done. And you can't deny what there's been glimpses of being seen on the defensive side. Like, you're seeing some of the edge rushers, they're outside linebackers, like a Hunter Clegg's leaned out a little bit. Former Utah signee, returned home from his mission, and he's part of BYU's defense. He's going to be a really big piece going forward for BYU. Braxton Lindsey, a former 4-star recruit who picked BYU over Oklahoma. He's going to be a name to watch. There's a lot of talent, and K-Pop has had so much success in his coaching career with guys like Kyle Vinoy, Fred Warner, and you're seeing signs of that. So it's a little bit of a merging of the Bronco era and the Kalani era, and a little bit of Kyle Whittingham influence into this program. It's an interesting mix of how this is going to come together, this defense, and Kalani feels really good about it. I think that's probably one of the big storylines in the final week of spring.
Is JoJo Phillips your number one receiver coming out of fall camp, or do you think somebody elevates that position?
I'll say he's number one right now, but I wouldn't be married to it. If I was Fesi Sitake and Aaron Roderick, I think it's still a case of you got to go prove it in games. Ultimately, I do think that so far he's looked pretty good in spring ball, and BYU's got a good secondary returning. Evan Johnson's been in and out. They're kind of holding him out precautionary to ultimately get him ready for the fall and be ready to go there. So you're not getting one-on-ones, one first-team defense, first-team offense all the time. So it's still kind of wait and see. And I think the Pop-Tarts Bowl performance from JoJo was really good. And he was someone that had a great relationship, developed a lot of chemistry early on when Bear Bachmeier arrived on campus last summer. And that showed itself early on last season, where Bear was always looking to JoJo before he suffered that shoulder injury against Stanford. And so maybe they can pick up that chemistry and build that into this season. But, I think that the tight end position is really what's going to help BYU the most with its passing attack this year, because they've got two players in Walker Lyons and Roger Saliapaga. It's probably the best 1-2 tight end receiving unit that BYU's had, probably at least since the Matt Bushman, year and when they were going into 2020 and they had Bushman and Isaac Rex, and then Bushman goes down with an injury. It's probably that best tandem since then, and maybe even have to go back further to actually see production. So this is a pretty good tight end unit, and they feel like they go 4 deep at that spot with Noah Moeaki as well, and Kean Need is more of a blocker. So that's going to be, I think, the position that could get targeted quite a bit and be up there in the receiving yards. We saw that with Carson Ryan, but I think it goes to an even higher level with Lyons and Saliapaga in the receiving game for this tight end unit.
So what are your thoughts? Buha's put on some weight. He's at, I think, 280 now, and the plan is to move him to D tackle, correct?
That's right. Yeah, Viliami Buha is going to be in the interior, and so he's going to be making the switch full time. He dabbled with it a little bit last year from D end, occasionally in that odd front, playing some D tackle, but now he's going to be a full time defensive tackle, and it's the right move because again he's added a lot of weight. And look, I mean, his dad's one of the great D tackles in Utah history, and it was a vet in the NFL, and he's coaching on BYU's defensive line this year. So dad probably knows best in that situation, and Viliami goes to the interior, and he'll team up with guys like, you know, Keanu Tanavasa, who returns, and Keanu's kind of in that bucket of players that's, you know, probably, you know, being held out for the most part to get ready for what's going to be waiting ahead in the fall. But, you know, you've also got Justin Kirkland, too, Oklahoma State transfer last year, didn't really make much of an impact at all last season. You know, he dealt with the knee injury in fall camp, and that put him really behind the 8 ball pretty much the entire season. I remember he made that return in the Colorado game in late September, but just never really got going. It seemed like he was lost a little bit. Now he's healthy. He's ready to go. I expect more production from him. And it might be a case of you never see him pop up in a stat sheet, but he's going to be assignment sound and be tough in helping with BYU stopping the run and being stout on that regard. So I think he'll be in that mix too. And then Anisi Purcell, another senior. Those are probably your top 4 guys for BYU in the interior of the defensive line.
What transfer player do you anticipate having, or you don't have to go with one, but maybe 2 or 3 transfer guys that you anticipate having a big impact on this team?
Lyons and Saliapaga, as I noted, but I would also add too Kyler Casper from Oregon.
That's who I was going to bring up. No big numbers, but man, he's a big mamma jamba out there.
No production really at all since he, you know, was the 4 years at Oregon, 2 season-ending foot injuries, had a connection with Trayson Bourget, BYU's, you know, backup quarterback right now, the number 2 guy at this point, heading into the final week of spring ball. They had a connection through their time in 7-on-7 football in Arizona. And when Casper hit the portal, Bourget kind of brought Casper up to BYU coaches. And BYU recruited him lightly out of high school, and he was a 4-star recruit before he committed to Oregon. But he's someone that I think if you talk about going back to the conversation of number 1 wide receiver, Casper could end up being that potentially. I think that's a big jump again from no production 4 years in college to now being a number 1 for a team that's looking to break through and get to the playoff. But I think that he is someone that has been garnering rave reviews in spring ball so far, and there's high expectations for him. I mean, I would look at Casper, JoJo Phillips, you know, Tana Kua. Those are probably some of the top 3 guys, you know, Reggie Frischneck, Cody Hagan, and then true freshman legend Glasker being in there too. And you've also got Tiger Bachmeier returning. So BYU's got options. It's just all those names I mentioned, that sounds deep when you mention the names, but really no one's produced at a high level consistently to where you feel really good about the value you get for that guy at wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. So it's still to be determined, but there's some optimism at that wide receiver spot. And Kyler Casper, I think his arrival and his impact he's showing in spring ball is reason to believe that they could still be a pretty productive unit, because if he wasn't showing signs in spring, I think you'd have a little bit more, not bleak outlook, but you wouldn't be as optimistic that they could be highly productive if he wasn't having the success he's having so far in spring ball.
You know, it's funny, and this always makes me feel old when I see things like this. Another reason I brought him up is because I remember his dad playing for the Broncos, and it wasn't that long ago that Kevin Casper was a heck of a wide receiver in the Broncos. I think he played 8 years in the league with the Broncos and others, but I mean, there's some good genetics there for sure.
He is, yeah, and his dad played at Iowa, and then as you noted, the Broncos, and Casper too has got a younger brother who's a 3-star guy down in Arizona that BYU's offered. So they're really bought into that family, and Aaron Roderick's talked about the connection with knowing the dad, knowing the Casper family, and kind of forming a good relationship with them to taking a chance, and that's it's. He is a different type of transfer that BYU has just not been pursuing in recent portal cycles. The common thread with many of the portal guys that BYU adds that you point to is that they had a really strong existing relationship before committing or going to another program out of high school. BYU typically always goes for those guys like a Paki Finau, who's probably going to be BYU starting left tackle this year. He transfers in from Washington. BYU was recruiting him heavily out of high school. They couldn't get him the first go round. The moment he hits the portal, they kind of hit the ground running and pick up where they left off, and they make that portal acquisition happen quickly. Whereas, again, Kyler Casper, they recruited him a little bit, but it wasn't too extensive where it was still kind of a little bit of a wild card, and they had the connection with the younger brother. And then when Kyler hit the portal and Bourget, his connection all kind of came together, but still it didn't fit the typical way of going about a BYU portal acquisition where it's like, yes, they knew the position coach. They kind of make this thing seamless and just take it, they just go forward with it. But I think it's needed for BYU because, again, I think if they're going to break through and go win the Big 12, try to get to the playoff, they've got to take some big swings on guys that maybe they've never worked with before, hands-on, and just try to go get, some players. I think it would have been huge for BYU had there been a spring portal to maybe fill a few of the gaps potentially coming out of spring, but still, this is a pretty good football team and one that should have a pretty high floor going into fall of 2026.
Good stuff as always. Appreciate your time, Mitch, and we'll talk again here very soon, I'm sure.
You bet, Scotty. Take care, man.
There he is, Mitch Harper, Cougar Insider at KSLSports.com. All right. Coming up, we'll revisit part of our conversation with Cameron Walker, athletic director at Utah State. It's all straight ahead right here on The Zone.
The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA's heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
Hi, this is Alex Kantrowitz. I'm the host of Big Technology Podcast, a longtime reporter and an on-air contributor to CNBC. And if you're like me, you're trying to figure out how artificial intelligence is changing the business world and our lives. So each week on Big Technology, I bring on key actors from companies building AI tech and outsiders trying to influence it, asking where this is all going. They come from places like NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, and plenty more. So if you want to be smart with your wallet, your career choices, in meetings with your colleagues, and at dinner parties, listen to Big Technology Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Did you know fluoride is not available in Utah water systems? And fluoride supplements work best from 6 months to 16 years old. A healthy smile isn't just about teeth. It's about health and confidence. Your smile matters. Find resources at yoursmileutah.org.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car's gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
Introducing Home Care Plus, a new subscription service from Lowe's that helps make life easier by giving members a hand with home maintenance. Let Lowe's tackle the tasks you keep meaning to do, like electric dryer vent cleaning, replacing hard-to-reach light bulbs, and more. Subscribe to Home Care Plus for just $99 a year and consider your to-do list done. Members get more at Lowe's. Available in select zip codes only. Cancel anytime. Non-refundable fee. Product purchase required. Terms and service restrictions apply. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
You're locked on to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hey, coming up this week, it's another edition of Win Ticket Wednesday. How about this one? This is good. You, on Wednesday, have a chance to win tickets to go see Weezer with the Shins and Silver Sun. You pick up at Silver Sun Pickup, There we go. That's going to take place at Maverick Center coming up on September 15th. So if you want those tickets, make sure to be listening all day on Wednesday. Every show will be giving away a pair of tickets. All right, I had a chance to catch up with Cameron Walker, athletic director at Utah State, Ben Jacobson, the new basketball coach in Logan. And I asked him what really separated Ben Jacobson from the rest of the candidates at Utah State.
Yeah, when you look at what he's accomplished and what he's done in his career, I think it was hard for us to picture getting where we want to go without someone that's been there before. And I think his accomplishments, his resume, and then you add to it, every person you talk to says exceptional coach, even better human being. It just kind of snowballed. And when you get in a room with him, I remember talking to another coach, but I got in a room with him and said, he's not telling you what you want to hear. He's telling you exactly what he believes. And Greg McDermott and I even had this conversation. I said, I'm not sure he's capable of telling me what I want to hear. And he said, he's not. He's just a straight shooter. He's going to tell you exactly what he thinks. And then, honestly, our vision, without me even expressing my vision, his vision for what he thought Utah State athletics could be and should be was exactly what we've been saying. And when those match up and you get a great human being to do the work with, sky's the limit, and we're super excited.
What is that vision that the two of you share?
I think it's about elevating the program. The second weekend's a big part of it. And also chasing down in the new Pac-12 the leaders, and those that'll have more resources. Certainly Gonzaga has done a tremendous job. And, in league meetings, I've been conscientious to say, we don't want to pull Gonzaga back to the rest of us. We want to elevate our programs so that we're at their level, not try and pull them back. And I think that's what we want to do. They've got a tremendous model, so it's only out of respect for what they've done, but we want to catch them. We want to be a program like that. And in order to do that, I think we need, like I said, someone who's been there, but also some sustainability. I think it's just difficult if we go through this 1 to 2 year cycle to really build the momentum we need. We can be competitive. We can make the tournament every year, but it's hard to have that next level of success.
So I think that's interesting because that's the paradigm has shifted a little bit in terms of surviving at Utah State and now excelling at Utah State, because it's felt like for so many years a coach leaves and then it was like, okay, let's just find somebody to kind of hold on and keep it where we're at. You're looking at it like, okay, we've done this. Now it's time to elevate to this.
Absolutely. And, when I look at coaches that are where we want to be, Sweet 16, Elite Eights, and the coaches, as I looked around at the coaches in the Sweet 16, they're very experienced coaches. They've done a lot. They've got long resumes. They've been there, and they've got some battle scars, and Coach Jacobson has those. But we're not satisfied being an NCAA tournament team or an NCAA tournament participant. We want to chase it. And if you're not getting better and you're not trying to improve, it makes it, I don't know. That's what gets me up in the morning, and I can tell that's what gets Coach Jacobson up in the morning, and I think that's why he's a great fit.
to pry a guy away from a university where he's been at for, over 2 decades and has had tremendous success, that's not easy to do. What was it about Utah State that made him decide, because he's had opportunities in the past, but made him finally decide, okay, this is the program I want to leave to?
Yeah, he has had plenty of opportunities in the past. He's turned down some big time Power 4 jobs. And I think, it was our alignment and vision. I think it was how we're resourcing this program. And it was his belief in us that he can chase those championships. I mean, he's not trying to make it back to the Sweet 16. He's got bigger thoughts than that. There's some scars that he has from just missing out on that next level, and he wants to get there. And he feels like this is a place where he can do it and really chase that success. And then certainly we wanted to convince him, and there's a lot of things positive here from the momentum of the school, the alignment between our board and our president and me. And I think those things were all enticing.
Cameron Walker, athletic director at Utah State, on the job for less than 6 months, and you got to make probably one of the most important hires in athletic department history.
Yeah.
No pressure there.
It comes at you quick. Yeah, no pressure. That's Stu Morrill and I talked, and that's basically what he said to me. We talked last week. I believe in getting that visit with the student athletes, got their thoughts, called Stu, and Stu's advice was simple: don't screw it up. That's obviously what we're trying to do, but it's a pressure thing, and you feel the weight of it, and you want to get it right, and you want everybody to embrace it. But at the same time, getting it right for these student athletes is even more important than the rest of it. And so as we sat down with all of our candidates, you're really viewing it from the lens of, will these guys, will Mason Falsov, will Carson Templin, will Jordy Barnes, all of them, right? Will they like this coach? Can I see them relating? How would they respond to this? And you try and view it for that lens and get the best coach for your student athletes, because they're going to spend a lot of time together.
It's interesting you bring that up, because when you're hiring, maybe 15 years ago, or even frankly, probably 5 years ago, when you hire a coach, you're thinking, okay, who's the best coach for my program? But now it's an element of, well, who are they going to bring with them? How are they in fundraising? How are our current players going to relate to them? There's so many other little things that come into play now because of NIL and free transfers and all those other things. How hard is it to kind of clear through all of that? Or I guess how much importance do you put on that, as opposed to, can the guy just flat out coach?
Yeah, I think for me, it's twofold. And because there's so many elements, I think it's helped me zero in the last few years as I've been a part of hires on what's the most important thing. And to me, it's, will the student athletes have an unbelievable experience with the individual? Will he make them better? Will he make in this case, can he make them men and chase championships? And then can he flat out coach? And it's hard to check both those boxes. But this guy checks both those boxes. And I think it's just important as you go through that. There is so many things, but you have to keep the most important things, the main thing, in the top of your priority.
Cameron Walker, athletic director at Utah State, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. What has been the conversations throughout the process? You mentioned that you met with the team as soon as Jared Calhoun made it officially. He was on to Cincinnati. But what have those continued conversations been like? And has Coach Jacobson had a chance to chat with those guys yet?
Yeah, so Coach Jacobson had a chance to get with the guys on Zoom. I'm sure he's making some calls. We're also setting up some meetings and some stuff tomorrow after the press conference with them. And then really I've stayed in touch with 2 or 3 of them as much as they want to. A bunch of them have texted me and called me throughout the process just to stay connected. And I update them and I tell them exactly where we're at. And I don't talk candidate names with them because I don't think that's fair to put them in that spot. But I talked to them about the attributes and the interest and the type of candidates that we're looking at and quality of them. And I think that's been important through the process to just stay connected with them, again, as much as they want to be. Some of them haven't wanted to, and they're like, I need some space right now to do some thinking. And that's great too. It's at whatever level they've wanted to engage. But certainly some of them have engaged heavily, and it's certainly been on our mind as we've gone through this process.
There's a lot of conversations and Freedom of Information Acts in terms of contracts and things like that. There is a buyout courtesy of Jared Calhoun that would provide a bit of influx of resources available to you. How do you go about earmarking those? And is that a conversation with Ben in terms of NIL, or is that with Dalton on staff, or how do you determine how to immediately address the transfer portal, which will begin here in a couple days?
Yeah, and that timing was important. Why to get this done this week? We're a week, basically next Tuesday, that portal opens up. Obviously, I've said time and time again, talent acquisition and retention is the most important thing. And in this case, twofold, on the coaching staff and head coach, as well as on the player side. So certainly, we obviously probably not going to throw all that in 1 year, space it out a little bit, but we will use that money certainly in that space to elevate this program.
So when you look at Ben Jacobson and how he's adapted to this new world, there's a lot of, and I don't want to call it, there's a lot of grizzled veterans, I guess we should say, that have been around the league or been around college basketball and college athletics for a long time that have had a hard time adapting to this new world. How do you feel like he has done in that area?
I think he's done really well. And given the resources he's had and kind of the hand he had, I think it's been incredible. He was there's been some complaints here about, our resources and how much we have and things of that nature. And certainly we're trying to build that and increase that as much as we can. I think this next year will, obviously be at a very competitive level. But for that cards he kind of had in his hand, I think he's played that really, really well. They're either their leading scorer or second leading scorer this past year was a transfer kid. He's done well getting the right kids and making sure that those are the right fit too. And I think that's important. And we've seen that. I thought Coach Calhoun did a terrific job with that as well, going to the portal for some of those needs and getting the right kid that can help you on the court, but also the right fit. And I think Ben understands both those and has been highly successful at doing that at Northern Iowa.
All right, so I'm going to steal a line from the first line you're going to issue tomorrow at your press conference because every AD says it, but sometimes it's true and sometimes it may not be true. How impressed were you with the level of candidates that wanted this job?
Very impressed. So yeah, I'll try and state it more eloquently than that tomorrow. But the pool was incredibly deep. It was tons and tons of interest. We have a lot of people that candidly could do this job. There were a lot of people that you could envision being successful. That's great news. On the search side, it makes it very difficult to then say, okay, but who would be the very best? But I mean, high level of coaches that have accomplished a lot of things, whether it's, Final Fours, whether it's, assistant coaches at Final Fours, lots of high level stuff that they've accomplished and done and throughout the entire country. I think it speaks to that we were able to land somebody with a resume and as accomplished as Coach Jacobson, that this program has elevated. It's not the same program that we used to, and we can get people that are very established head coaches to be very interested in positions at Utah State.
I had a assistant coach that I've known for a long time at a P4 school reach out and said, I don't think I can get a sniff at this thing. And he goes, if I were at where I was at 6-7 years ago, I think I would have had a really good chance. But now, I really don't think I've got any kind of chance whatsoever, just based on the quality of people that I know are going after this gig. When you cast a net, were there tangible, specific things that you wanted to see, like head coaches, current head coaches, initial, amount of 20-plus wins? Was there a number, tangible numbers that you wanted to see in regards to whoever you're going to go after? Or was it just, let's go see what's out there?
I try and stay pretty open-minded early on. But then you kind of narrow as you go through the process, as you kind of see what's there. And you're able to get a few people into the pool that are really good. And now you kind of have a baseline of they got to measure up to this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where Ben was I'm talking to people. I know he's in the pool. It's that guy's fantastic, but he's not Ben Jacobson. Right. And so you're able to just kind of keep plugging through that. And after a while, you're like, well, it kind of sounds like we just need to go with this guy. And I think that was kind of the case here. But we were open to the idea that it could be a lead assistant at a Power 4. It could be a thing. But as we got through this, as we got through the list of qualities the team gave us, it just became apparent that that head coach experience was probably going to be really important. And that, somebody with the character like Coach Jacobson's known for was going to be a really, really good fit. His toughness, his discipline, his style of play all mesh really well with our guys. And you throw in how successful he's been at a place with, a fraction of our resources. It's exciting to see what he'll do once he gets here.
There you go. Great stuff, as always. Cameron Walker, Athletic Director at Utah State. We'll wrap up this thing next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The Bleacher Report app is your destination for sports. Right now, the NBA's heating up, March Madness is here, and MLB is almost back. Every day there's a new headline, a new highlight, a new moment you've got to see for yourself. That's why I stay locked in with the Bleacher Report app. For me, it's about staying connected to my sports. I can follow the teams I care about, get real-time scores, breaking news, and highlights all in one place. Download the Bleacher Report app today so you never miss a moment.
Do you love rom-coms? Do you wish you could talk about Christmas movies year-round? Then we have the perfect podcast for you, Hallmarkies Podcast. Throughout the year, we cover all things romance, holiday, and Hallmark, including recaps of every Hallmark show, like When Calls the Heart and The Way Home. You can also get loads of bonus content covering shows like Bridgerton, Sweet Magnolias, and Just Like That. We are an all-female group of friends who are passionate for these shows and movies and give our honest opinions as well as gush over what we love so much. But that's not all. Every Monday, there are interviews with all your favorite actors, writers, directors, and more. Check out Hallmarkies Podcast on all your podcast providers and on YouTube. That's Hallmarkies Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
Did you know fluoride is not available in Utah water systems? And fluoride supplements work best from 6 months to 16 years old. A healthy smile isn't just about teeth. It's about health and confidence. Your smile matters. Find resources at yoursmileutah.org.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car's gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
On the teams you're passionate about. This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Should be fun. Mackenzie Weegar, Utah Mammoth, will join JJ and Alex coming up in just about an hour from right now at 4:05. Should be a great conversation, especially coming off that win against the Kings. Hey, the Zone and Beehive Mills honoring the people that impact youth sports in our communities. Nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Beehive Mills Hero of the Week at KSLSports.com/contest. Then every Thursday afternoon, JJ and Alex will announce the winner. It's the Beehive Mills Hero of the Week. All right, great show today. If you missed it, Cameron Walker joined us. If you missed that, it'll be up on our podcasting feed. Just search Scotty G on your podcasting platform of choice. Also, big thanks to Jay Stevens for breaking down a little hockey. Big 6-2 win for the Mammoth over the Kings. And then Mitch Harper talking a little BYU basketball and looking ahead to spring as well.
Hey, can we, you know what? I needed to probably play this coming in.
Oh, what are you doing?
What?
What are you doing?
You called a walk-off over the weekend. What do you mean, what am I doing? What are you doing, Scotty?
I did call a walk-off shot.
What are you doing, buddy?
Yeah.
I'd appreciate it if you kind of allowed me to play this because it's actually pretty good. Would you like to set it up real quick? Or
All right. So BYU, I was helping out on the ESPN Plus broadcast. BYU.
New softball play-by-play, Scott Gerard.
BYU, Kansas, bottom of the 7th inning, which means that's the last inning, 7 innings in softball. So bottom of the 7th, tie game, Danica Acosta up to bat for BYU. Partridge, and a shot. Will it drop? It's over! A walk-off home run! How about that? Danica Acosta, 0 for 3 from the plate coming to that one, but she ends it on a right field shot, and BYU is going to knock off Kansas. How about that? That was fun.
That was pretty awesome.
Walk-off home run, bottom of the 7th.
First home run of the year for Acosta?
Yeah, young woman had not hit a home run. She was 0 for 3 from the plate coming into that one, and bam.
Not gonna lie, she got fooled a little bit with some sort of off speed and was a little bit ahead, but still knocked it over, and she knew it was gone.
Yeah.
Fist pumping from the get-go.
That was cool. It was fun, man. And by the way, big thanks to ESPN Plus and BYU for allowing me to help out on some games down there. I'm telling you, I am a softball fan. It moves fast. It's fun to call. It's, frankly, a little bit more fun.
It's only 7 innings?
It's only 7 innings.
A little long?
I even had
for the non-baseball purists?
It wasn't quite a Pete Rose all-star game, but we even had a collision at the plate that was really nasty. I mean, there was
injury nasty.
Stayed in the game, but really shaken up. So yeah, I mean, it was fun, man. I enjoy it. All right, coming up next, JJ and Alex straight ahead, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did she have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
Every day, the world gets a little weirder and a lot more awesome. Cool Stuff Daily takes a look at everything from mining in space to the latest in the fight against cancer to how AI is, well, basically changing everything. It's all the cool stuff you didn't know you needed to know. Join us for Cool Stuff Daily as we take a quick look at science, tech, and the wait, what stories that make you sound way smarter at dinner. Subscribe to Cool Stuff Daily now, because the future's happening fast, and it's way too fun to miss.